Hey there, welcome everyone. I got such positive feedback about seeing my temple the other day that I thought I would do a series of videos here for you in this space so that you can kind of feel my energy when I'm here in this sanctuary. And I also wanted to address some of the questions that are coming up, some of the responses and feedback from some of the videos that I've been sharing of late. So today I want to address the question about incoming light. What is this about? Why is there more incoming light? And what does that mean for us? So thank you to the person who requested that feedback or information. So here we go. So planet Earth is in what's called an ascension cycle. And we can look to things like the precession of the equinoxes. We can look to things like the cycles and the seasons astrologically. We can look to things like the evolution of consciousness itself on the planet to give us some indicators. Then we can also look to things like the amount of solar activation going on, which apparently we're supposed to not be at a solar maximum for another 2 years, but we're getting bombarded with solar radiation, coronal mass ejections from the sun at a pretty high rate for a time when it's not even supposed to be solar maximum, apparently. And the Schumann resonance is another thing we can look to. So these are, actual measurable events. So the Schumann resonance is sort of the frequency or heartbeat of Mother Earth, if you will. And we have seen, and this has been monitored for decades, and we're seeing like frequencies off the charts of what the actual machinery equipment that measures Schumann resonance apparently could measure. So in other words, Earth frequency is raising. So there's a higher level of frequency. The amount of solar radiation, the solar light, the coronal mass ejections is at a high right now. And astronomically, as a solar system, we are actually moving through an area of the not the solar system, the galaxy that is called the photon belt. And this connects in with that whole precession of the equinoxes, perhaps not. Some of this I've got pieces of knowledge and I don't necessarily have it totally woven together like a scientist or anything. But there are periods of time when our solar system, which is moving through the galaxy, think about our Milky Way galaxy. It's a spiral galaxy with many arms. And our solar system moves through that galaxy, and every tens of thousands of years, something like that, it moves through the photon belt. And that's the period of time when we get much more high frequency galactic energies. And those high frequencies serve to stir up and awaken and raise the frequency of Earth and awaken the consciousness of humanity. And the precession of the equinoxes has to do with, if you know, our Earth is not, the North and South Pole aren't like this, they're at an angle. So as they rotate through time, the North Pole over, I think it's 26,000 years, ends up being in different places. So the polar, there's a shift in that way. It moves like this. And so we are at the end of one of those cycles. So there's all of these confluences. And I like to think of it as, if you've ever seen one of those old-fashioned watches or clocks with many different size gears, and they're all kind of turning at different rates of speed. And then there can come a point where they all sort of unify to the beginning of a new cycle at one time. That's kind of what we're dealing with here at this time. So there's cosmic, astronomical reasons for this. There's a frequency upgrade, and then there's also, we would say, the spiritual, which is much more, I would say, where I'm inclined to focus and look at. there's the ancient Vedic texts that talk, for example, about the ages of humanity, the different ages, a golden age and a silver age and a bronze age and an iron age, and they correlate with levels of consciousness, not with levels of tools and equipment. So the Iron Age is correlated roughly with the Yuga, which is the word for age, uh, of Kali, which is the lowest frequency, lowest consciousness, brutish, warring, disconnect from divinity. And that's what we're moving out of. So you could think of that as sort of one of the metaphysical or spiritual gears or consciousness gears in that image of the many different sizes of gears. So that's coming to a close, or has come to a close, and the new cycle is beginning. So we are literally at a point on the planet where we are at the end of an old age, the old age of deep disconnect from each other, deep divisiveness, deep fear, a belief that we are separate from God, that God is a punishing being, that we are sinful, evil creatures, and an age of consciousness where we project out all of our guilt, shame, and judgment onto others as a justification to attack them rather than to heal those feelings within ourselves. So that age is coming to a close, or it's, we're shifting into an age of a remembrance of love's presence, of a remembrance of our connection and the oneness of God, light, love. And the universe, because we're really creating it, is coming to support that awakening, and that support is awakening us. It's a dynamic exchange of lifting as we rise consciousness. And so our God light is wanting to come forth now into our consciousness, into the way we're living our lives. And in order to do that, we need to remove the obstructions. And so the light forces, the forces of all the things that I've already mentioned, our own consciousness, the divine, galactic sisters and brothers, the cosmology of everything is coming to serve and support that. And that can feel initially, or in waves, like a dark night of the soul. So what is that paradox about? Because there has been so much layered on top of our light, let's say. So let's say we have the little light of God within us, the light of our own divinity, the light of our holy divine child of the one self. And it's in there, like that song, this little light of mine, this little light of mine. I want to let it shine. But over lifetimes and incarnations and generations and centuries of suffering, misery programming, divisiveness, war, and hate, all of these layers have gone on top of it, such that most of us were born into a state of such fragmentation, deep separation, and fear, whether we were traumatized as children or just conditioned into the programming of the Matrix, that in order for us to get to that little light, we have to start removing the layers. Well, the layers, it's not like, I don't know, what would be a good analogy? It's not like just taking a shower and cleaning ourselves off after having dirty fingernails working in the garden and dirty feet, right? We have to actually bring up this stuff to see it, to bring it to the light of consciousness so that we can see and understand what our shadow material is in order to love it and let it go, to let it go, surrender it back to God, or integrate it, to forgive it, to bring the light of consciousness and love and self-awareness to our shadow aspects. And as we do that, over time, the layers get removed, and that little light of ours gets to shine more and more. And then our light contributes to we're one more gear in the big giant clock of our own awakening. So we're bringing our light And then those of us who are here to be in service, and even if we're conscious or unconscious of that, the more light we hold, the more we serve as a kind of acupuncture needle for Mother Earth to anchor that frequency, and then to bring up her energy and send it outward, to send it into the field, if you will, to infuse the collective with our own light, so that we become a part of the solution, a part of the light, expanding it in that way. So I hope that that has answered your question to the person who asked it. And if there's more you'd like to know, or if there's something else I've teased out a little bit in this video, which you would like to hear more about, please do leave a comment in the question or comment in the comments below, and I'll be happy to discuss that further, or refer you to resources if I don't have those answers. Okay. Many blessings, have a blessed day, and see you again.